Hello there, my name's Sam Neffendorf, and in this video today, I want to share with you the really big healing journey that I've been on this year with the most intense ongoing physical symptoms that I've had probably in my life. And they've actually been the first significant symptoms that I've had to deal with since I started learning about meta consciousness and German new medicine back in 2014. It's been really challenging for me at times, and the symptoms have been quite unpleasant and sometimes even scary, but it's also been really worth it. It's been really rewarding because I've been able to actually really experience ongoing chronic healing cycles and the benefits of looking at my own healing and taking a multi-layered approach to my health, addressing so many different levels, addressing the physical level, the environmental level, the psychological level, energetic and spiritual elements as well. So I've, over the last 11 years and certainly over the last 7 years with meta consciousness and the German new medicine understanding of health, I've been honored to guide many people to heal from a very wide range of conditions, lots of which are considered to be incurable. But finally, I've now lived it, and I can really say that I feel a deeper understanding and new level of empathy with what they've been through. And I'm actually really, really happy and proud of what I've achieved in my own healing, along with all of the lessons that I've learned on the way. And one of the greatest things about it, something which I had no understanding of before, or certainly not for a very long time, is the sense of elation and relief that I felt when I realized that my efforts had actually worked and that I really had healed myself. And that was just a really incredible experience. So, yeah, so this year, the 3 conditions that I've healed myself from are long-sightedness, silent reflux, and GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disorder, and breathing difficulties like asthma that's triggered by the reflux as a result of the acid coming up and then impacting my lungs, or that's at least the conventional view of what's happening. So the first one of these symptoms was the long-sightedness, which I first noticed was happening back in 2021. And this was also actually the least challenging of the symptoms to heal. And I've already made a video and a blog about that, which you can find in my blogs at eftnow.co.uk. And I'll put a link down below this video to connect to that as well, so you can find out about that healing journey. That one was really amazing. That was an amazing healing, as it really showed me how the insights from meta-analysis before going on a plant medicine journey can be really, really healing as part of understanding what you need to do in your healing journey. The other symptoms, reflux and breathing difficulties, have been way more challenging, in fact, and they actually feel really, really serious at the time. Often you even feel, quite worried about what's going on. Certainly I did. As of now, I consider them to be at least 90% better than they were at their worst. While they're not 100% better, it really feels absolutely life-changing to have come from the place where I was about back in March, so 7 months or so ago, compared to where I am now, not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally. So yeah, back at that time, I started to get a combination of symptoms that manifested as cycles of coughing fits, deep burping, and constant throat clearing. We're making a sort of Gollum like sound, just like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And that came with a lot of discomfort as well. There was this constant uncomfortable lump in my throat and very restricted breathing, which felt like I just couldn't get a truly satisfying breath. Now I knew that I was getting enough oxygen, but it just felt like I was never getting that full deep breath that I wanted to get, especially bad at night. And I'd often wake up choking with this sort of burny feeling in my throat, and for a moment feeling like I was unable to breathe. And when that happens, it comes with this sort of sense of dread, panic, and helplessness, and even feeling like you're dying, feeling like I was dying basically. And I had this sort of self-doubt, although even with the work that I do, this questioning of whether this would work for me, whether it was possible for me to get better from this, and this sort of sense of doom that this was how it was going to be for me from now on. And just even that it was going to get worse and could lead to my early demise, my early grave. And it brought me back to thinking about a client that I had several years ago who came to me with silent reflux. And reflux doesn't sound that serious when you hear about it, but having lived through it now, I could really understand how he felt. And when he was telling me that it often left him fearing for his life, and I really, really got what he meant from that. Now, luckily, of course, for me, with all of the knowledge and understanding I've got around this, I was able to use EFT tapping and other techniques to sort of raise or ease and release the difficult thoughts and feelings, and move more into a space of peace whenever I was getting into those deep sense of dread, helplessness, whatever, and get myself to a place of feeling safe and knowing that actually things were going to turn out okay. And often this would work really, really well. And at other times, it was about having a focus to be present with the sort of difficult thoughts and feelings that I was experiencing. So sometimes it's just giving you something to remind you that you're there, even though all this stuff is going on, and just being with what's going on as it happens. So actually looking at it from the meta perspective, the emotional themes for these symptoms for the silent reflux and for the GERD it's around territorial anger. So what this means is it's relating to stuffing down and suppressed anger or disputes in areas that you'd consider to be your territory. Well, for me, it was around stuffing it down. Maybe for other people, it might be about really feeling it and still feeling angry and unempowered to do anything about it. And the breathing difficulties relate to a couple of things. Territorial fear, but can relate to that similar, but fears around your territory and your boundaries, but also this, it's called a death fright. So like this shock of fear of death about something effectively. So they really fit in with what was going on for me. And so those are the themes. But before I'd really understood those themes, I had been invited to take part in a San Pedro ceremony locally to me. And San Pedro is another plant spirit medicine known as the grandfather medicine. And because I'd had this was shortly after I'd had those big healing results from understanding what was going on with my eyes and insights from psilocybin mushrooms. So I thought, yeah, I've thought about it a bit with not feeling well, whether it would be a good idea. But then I chose to attend, and I set some intentions around healing and getting insights into what was going on in my lungs. But I wasn't really prepared for what happened on that journey, because around a couple of hours into the journey, I started feeling quite a lot of distress, feeling like I wasn't breathing deeply enough, getting into a state of panic. And what that was, because I did know, part of me knew that I was safe and was getting enough oxygen. The fearful part of me, so the fearful part of my ego, was really playing out this story that I might die there in this altered state, unable to do anything about it. And it was very scary at the time, but looking back at it afterwards, I could see that this was all about what it was showing me, and how my subconscious was coming through this was helping me to face this fear of death that I thought I was okay with, actually, but obviously had still been plaguing me, especially in light of these symptoms. There's a few bits I really remember from the journey, and one of them was I had this a very heavy coughing fit, which really sounded like very, very intense. And to me, it felt like I was purging this sort of energetic mucus or ectoplasm from my lungs. So although nothing seemed to come up, it felt like there was something really deep coming out of my lungs. And when that happened, I started feeling better. And then after a few hours, the fear had subsided, and I was able to join the rest of the circle, who were all really having a very good time, enjoying the music, chanting, singing. And so I was able to come back into the group. I'd been tucked away in a teepee, basically doing my own process, but then came back and was in the group and had a very beautiful time. And then something really amazing happened, which was there was a total eclipse of the moon, and we all got to witness that and be connected through that, which was awesome. And yeah, and then I felt very, I guess, wowed and humbled by the event, and those symptoms subsided quite considerably, probably about, I guess, half better in the following days. So it was a really amazing experience. And then there got some more insights from that as well. San Pedro is known as the grandfather medicine, and it has this sort of firm, kind energy, and you really feel like you're getting sort of practical grandfathery wisdom from it as well. For me, in this case, it really inspired me to take up running as exercise, an exercise that I'd never got into in all my years. I'd always shied away from going running, done it a few times, but really started a running process. And yeah, this started with, I was running way less than a kilometer, very hilly where I live. So a very short run, somewhere between half and 1 kilometer down and up a hill, was leaving me feeling exhausted and out of breath. And that's where I started, but I kept it up. And over a few months, I built up to around 8 kilometers, running that several times a week, and having the habit and that routine. That really, I started actually loving and looking forward to going running with my little doggy, and yeah, just having a really nice time in the mornings, out in the mountains, really beautiful. And building that habit and sticking to it was really, really awesome for my self-esteem. And yeah, and I started getting into really good shape, so compared to where I'd been, and yeah, feeling all the benefits of that, physically, mentally, emotionally. Now, this felt like, it had really resolved or largely resolved that sort of death fright aspect of the symptoms. And although, yeah, my breathing was still restricted to a degree, I really could tell, because I was able to do these long distance runs, and even with fairly shallow breathing, it was clear that I wasn't in any danger from lack of oxygen, because yeah, I was it got to a stage where I was doing these long runs, and it was, my legs were getting tired before I was getting out of breath all the time on it. So, and that still stayed with me until now. But I did still have the symptoms, especially the reflux symptoms, still some of the breathing stuff. And so, yeah, I started really from there on looking more deeply into the meta aspects of it, the German new medicine, understandings of what was going on with the territorial conflicts, to try and resolve it. Still was waking up with the acid throat and having this lump in my throat and everything. And so, yeah, so looking into what that was meaning for me at the time. And nothing initially really stuck up relating to territorial anger. And so what I decided to do was just become really aware of all of the areas, any anger that I felt. And because I had this idea around the territories meaning boundaries for me and suppression, I was looking for all the little things that I stuffed down rather than expressing. And I realized that there's just lots of little ways that I've been doing this and swallowing anger down. So you see, it's like that's esophagus thing, swallowing the anger down. And they're all little, and I would rationalize that they weren't meaningful and it was better to not bother with them rather than risk upsetting loved ones, etc. But yeah, combined, there'd been, over time, I guess, leading to this unstomachable, just little ball of, while they're not all big things, just leading to this sort of ball of anger and resentment that I was forcing myself to swallow down, and was coming up as this reflux. This is the way the metaphors work and in your body. So what could I do about it? So what I did was I made a decision to actually express straight away, if I felt these things, and I would, if rather than stuffing it down, anything that I might have just not expressed before, that I might have thought had been petty before, I would express to people. And I've been rationalizing not doing this because not wanting to upset them, but with the awareness that it might be causing me discomfort and sort of ongoing symptoms, I decided to do something different. And what was really good about it is that, of course, I'd not done it to stop upsetting people, but people didn't get upset when I expressed these things most of the time. And it actually led to things improving in these areas of life rather than pushing them down. I don't really want to talk about the precise issues, because they involve lots of people that I love and am very close to. But overall, one of the benefits, as I often see with people when they make these changes in life, is that rather than what they thought would happen, is that the everything improves. The relationships actually go on an upward journey rather than getting worse through expressing these unexpressed, unresolved things. But what I can say is that, they are, a lot of them are just the cliched little differences that you might have between loved ones, close family members, things that you might, the things that I felt, deflated and a bit resentful, but didn't want to make a fuss about, but they just build up and build up. And expressing them positively actually is healing for everybody and improves, yeah, not just my physical health, but also, and my own emotional state, but also improves everything, yeah, for loved ones as well. And yeah, what I realized, I had been probably a big part of the self-suppression that I've been going through is that my wife had been going through her own very deep healing process, which involved fatigue and burnout over the previous year. And to keep things going and support her in her healing, I'd had to, at the same time as always, also like, yeah, keeping everything going with the family, my business, etc. I had put a lot of my other needs on the back burner, which was the right thing that I needed to do at that time, and it was totally worth it. And I'm very happy to say that she's now feeling really great about her life and stepping into her creativity and being more aligned with what she does, and yeah, releasing awesome artwork and all sorts of projects, which is brilliant to see. Hopefully I'll be able to share that journey along with her at some time, because it really is amazing. Another great example of meta consciousness in action and seeing how healing gets you more into alignment. But at the time, and because I was suppressing myself and had to, so in that stress phase, having to do that at the time, there was a stressful impact on me and my body. So it's not really surprising that I developed symptoms during and after, especially after that time, as the stress on me released to a degree, and so my body went into its healing processes. So yeah, so that was a big part of why it was all going on for me. While I had decided to start expressing myself, my boundaries and my needs more fully, this was, changing habits. A physical habit like running, that's an easy one to, because you either do it or you don't, so you can track that quite easily. But remembering to express yourself, your boundaries and your needs, that's a bit harder to put into place. And so it was a real work in progress, and remembering to do it and really making it a habit did take some time, and gradually it's still a work in progress, but it's getting better and easier as my physical symptoms are correspondingly getting better and easier on me as well. And of course, I also used EFT, matrix reimprinting, and other tapping techniques to release any unexpressed anger and sadness that was still stuck in my body and energy system around all those feelings, around needs and boundaries. And healing's not as perfect straight line that we all wish and imagine it would be. So there's times, of course, when the symptoms felt worse, and I was able to use tapping and breathwork techniques, heart math, and things like that to remind myself that my body was going through these intelligent healing processes, and surrender deeper into them rather than resist and push away from them. And this sense of surrender is really important when you're going through that healing restoration phase with symptoms. And yeah, also the frustration. There's lots of areas where tapping and having emotional processing tools is really, really important. Of course, it's great to work with a practitioner, but having them for yourself and just being able to deal with this day-to-day stuff is a massive part of healing to get used to. And like we all do, often, or I don't know often, but sometimes I'd just be powering on, fed up and trying to ignore it and just wanting to get on with my life. But it would also come back to having to accept and release and surrender to these things. And so and eventually I would be reminded to trust in and surrender to the intelligence of my body and its biological responses. And this is something that's so important, is seeing the symptoms not as something that's gone wrong, nothing that needs to be fixed. They're intelligent adaptations. The stress phase are intelligent adaptations, and then more notably, usually the healing symptoms. The restoration phase, healing process is often where you really feel the physical things going on, and it requires your attention and participation in these processes to just allow and surrender to them happening, and knowing that it's yeah, the thing that should be happening. And I just want to say with that, you know, it's not, there are times when other interventions, including medical intervention, are required. So it is important to be aware of that as well. So yeah, so what happened? Yeah, so around a month ago, I suddenly realized I was just having a all day, and I realized that my breathing and my throat actually felt really, really clear for the first time in about 6 months. And that was the first time I felt this sense of elation and real joy, but it really hit me that things had changed. And I thought, oh yes, yeah, the healing process, I've done it, yay. But yeah, bit more to come. And and I was going on a holiday to Portugal, and that was a few weeks ago. And I was like, I remember thinking, yeah, it's done. And I was going with my family, and it was and my parents as well. And I was really excited, and even telling them that how I'd done it and healed myself. And at the time, I even recorded a video on how I'd healed myself at that time. But then just the day after I made that video, I developed these sort of cold symptoms. And it was the first time I'd had any sort of coldy thing for quite a while. And then that night at about 3, I woke up and felt like I had a really, really dry throat. And so I had a drink of water, and it didn't get rid of the dryness at all. So I started freaking out, and I realized that it was actually, the dryness was like deep down in my windpipe, maybe in my lungs, not in my esophagus. And again, all the fear came back. I felt like this was going to be there, and it felt horrible, and I couldn't sleep. So I sat up doing EFT and actually watching some cartoons on Netflix, which I don't ever really watch Netflix or anything like that, but it was just all I could do until I eventually crashed out for a couple of hours on the sofa. And yeah, and during that, I had this full range, all the symptoms, like the coughing, the sort of goleming, looping feeling that I hadn't had for ages. And obviously my heart sank because I thought, oh, no, that was just a temporary thing. But it wasn't, because you get these sort of healing peaks as part of your healing process before you go into the final part of restoration phase, where actually your body releases all of the like everything that needs to be released, like phlegm, excess tissue, toxins, etc., all come out as your body returns to equilibrium. And actually, you know, happily through that night, that sort of dry lung feeling did soften, and started feeling much better. And then after that, for the next few days, I had this very, very dry, deep hacking cough. I've never had one like it before. But it was I'm just going to say thick white gunk. I don't want to say any more than that. It was slowly coming out. And what came with it, which was, although I had all that coughing going on, my lungs felt like they opened up even more, and that I was able to breathe deeper than I had for months. And it was really strange, but it felt good somehow. And it was clear that I was healing, and it felt like I was healing, even though to people around me, it sounded like I had these awful symptoms going on. Now, an interesting thing, which I learned about this later, but I was given a pint of raw goat's milk by a neighbour a couple of weeks before, which was really delicious. And of course, you know, raw milk hasn't been treated, so it has all the natural bacteria and everything in it. And that could actually have helped to repopulate my body with the bacteria required for my lungs to complete their healing cycle. And that might sound really weird, but these much maligned microbes are a really important part of your healing process. And without the right ones available, you might not heal as effectively as you could. And I actually saw this in some work by Dr. Hammer, who founded German New Medicine, that the raw milk can provide those bacteria that are often missing from our domesticated bodies. So this point of all this gunk and everything, as I said, it's the second stage of the restoration phase, where the body is clearing symptoms and toxins and tissue that's built up, etc. So yeah, so where am I now? So yeah, earlier this week, a few days ago, I went for a run for the first time in about 3 weeks, as I had hurt myself and hurt my leg, and I've been waiting for it to heal. That's a resolution to a self-evaluation conflict, probably feeling related to my feeling better about myself in my sporting ability due to the improvement of running. And although I took it easy distance-wise, treating my leg gently, I noticed my breathing was really good, and I didn't get out of breath at all, even after a 3-week break. Couple of days later, I went again and was back up to about 5Ks with the best breathing I've had since this all began. And I haven't had any acid reflux, sore throat, or that sort of goleming sense for several weeks now. And it really feels like I've completed this healing. And as it happens, I've also, the next thing I've got lined up, I've got this series of breathwork sessions with a breathwork coach from Oxygen Advantage. And I had that opportunity a few weeks ago. So I thought I'd take it up to build vitality and further strengthen my breathing. And yeah, I started that the other day, and I'm really enjoying it. And even though my breath is much stronger than it was when I signed up, I can see that's going to be really valuable to build my vitality further. Okay, so yeah, that's where I am now. I hope that this shows that healing is a journey, not a quick fix, and it can be really challenging and take some time, but it's really worth it, rather than just suppressing symptoms. I've gained so much more than just feeling better. And of course, I already had all this knowledge and experience and believed I could trust my body to heal itself. And I've seen it for lots of clients, but I've really, really felt it and experienced it for myself now. It's probably a lot of this healing journey that I've forgotten to include, but I really hope that it shows that we've got this incredible healing power. And when we learn to listen to our bodies and what they're telling us, we can heal ourselves even from these so-called incurable conditions. So that's it. That's me, Sam, EFT Now. Much love.